Project Blue, a remix of F-Zero by Overshield. Folks, you know what that song means.
Well, it's 124 times in now.
Well, not that particular song, but yes, we are at round 124
Okay,
already.
fine.
My goodness.
But
Um,
I was looking, and there's a folder in Google Drive for 2014, and
yep.
it's for this show. And yeah, uh-huh.
Hmm.
I know I bring this up a lot, but it's like, we've done this for a while now, and
Mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
we have a slower cadence than we had when we first started, but it's been a while, and it's kind of weird and uncanny and slightly uncomfortable going back and looking at younger me and realizing like I still sound mostly the same, but like the the light of youth has definitely slowly left my
The
eyes.
light of
And
youth. Oh
ooh.
no. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
no, you're not wrong. We're definitely not getting that back without a lot of work and a
Nope.
lot of effort. Um,
Yeah. No Fountain of Youth for us, but
but
we,
that's
we do have
okay.
credits and we keep inserting them, and that is the name of the
We
show that we
do,
are doing.
right? Yes. So welcome everybody. I am MrBond.
And I'm
And
Tormod.
welcome to Insert Credits. Round 124, your next favorite thing. Because you can never get like your first favorite thing ever. You're not allowed to have nice things. So sometimes you just settle for the next one and then everything turns out
Oh.
fine. Um
Okay. So like I thought the inspiration for the show title was like not like your new favorite thing, but it's like your next favorite thing.
oh, well, okay,
So
that's a much more
as in
positive
like
spin on it. Yeah, we can go with that
we are
too.
now your new next favorite thing.
Right.
So
Yeah,
like
I guess
and
until next show, right? Like round 124 is now your present favorite thing, and round
yeah, pretty
125 will
much.
be yeah, okay. I get it. You know what?
Yep, there
Let's
you go.
let's go with that because that's more optimistic and everybody needs
Okay.
more
I like
optimism
that.
in this day and age, especially. But anyways, this is a podcast ostensibly about video games. We do try to talk about video games here. We split it up into three main sections. First, we talk about some news, what's been going on around the world, new releases, legal stuff, other more fun things than legal stuff, things of that nature. Then we take a brief break and listen to some tunes. Generally speaking, video game remixes from OC Remix. Very good site, very good site. After that, we talk about what we've been playing ourselves in terms of video games since last time, and then another section of good tunes. And then at the end, we do some ad hoc design. No preparation goes into that, outside of our previous experiences with ad hoc design, of course. But we pick up to, well, more than four sometimes things from Let's Make a Game.net from their game idea generator, and then live on show as we are speaking here we try to make a game around those things. Certain restrictions, certain genres, certain settings, etc., etc. Mostly successful. We have only had a couple times that were maybe on the iffy side, but we've always managed to do something with it. So, you know what?
Yep.
For like 80, we've got to have been doing this for like 60, 70, maybe 80 times by now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's been for quite a while now.
We haven't failed. So I don't anticipate we're going to fail tonight either. So stick around if that sort of thing interests you. But welcome all the
Yeah, it's
same.
our curse and blessing, honestly.
Hmm.
Like we sometimes come up with the next mother sword and sometimes also come up with the next really sketchy porn game. So
Every
really
now and
depends on
again,
how everything shakes out. So
sometimes you just got to make an erotic visual novel. Who knows? Like, there's not enough of
yeah,
those in the world.
no.
There we go. Very lighthearted denial. Okay, very good. Well, let's start off with some housekeeping. Let's talk about some meta stuff on the show here. Next few shows, we like to plan these three out. Looks like round 125 will be in September. That day was pretty much decided for us, the 13th.
Oh
So,
yeah.
not changing that. That'll be round 125. Round 126 in October. Looks like we have the 18th staked
Yep.
out for that. Okay, and then that would leave round then 127 for November. My goodness, it's almost the end of the year.
Yeah, and that one looks like the 15th because it's pretty much smack dab in the middle of the month.
Pretty much dead center. Okay, I will pencil that
Love
in
it.
and get that sent out to you then, probably later tonight. Cool. Well, that was very easy.
Oh yeah.
Any other further housekeeping? Usually not, but I
Okay.
think we'll raise that, and if nothing else comes up, we can just move on to some
The
news.
only
What?
thing I can
Oh, yeah, yeah.
really think of is for September. It's going to be kind of a busy week, so it might be a little strained for time. But
Okay, no problem.
that's when I'm going back to work ish. It's like the day before I go back. So um yeah, it'll be the
I
like
see.
the capstone of the break from things, and then we have some video game time and catch up, and then we go right back into the sadness again because
Oh
that's how life
no.
is.
Yeah,
Games though.
you're not wrong. News. What's
Yeah.
been going on around the world here? Well, let's start with maybe a bit of a sad topic here. ROMHacking.net
Mm,
is now pretty much read only. It's been shuttered slash archived slash whatever due to an internal dispute between the founder and some of like the original members there on how to keep it running. But that's
hmm.
nothing to sneeze at, really. It's been online for more than 20 years,
Yep.
providing ROM hacks and fan translations and fixes and improvements. And I believe that was one of the places that also had the SA1 patch for Gradius 3 and also Star Fox and all that sort of thing to lift the frame rate out of the single digits. So they've done a hell of a job for 20 years in being kind of a central repository for all that sort of thing. It's not gone for good. It's pretty much been handed over to the Internet Archive now to keep the archive there. So it's still there. Thank you for all your years of service, of course.
Hmm, hmm.
ROMHacking.net, unfortunately, now no longer particularly active, but still go back and see what stuff is there. All right,
The fun
better.
part of that is, oh,
No, 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 no. I
I was
was
just
about
gonna
to move
say,
on.
like the fun part of that is like they gave such a prolific and long running home for ROM hacking that the community that formed around it and the talent that became of it is everywhere now.
Oh yeah.
And it is definitely much more of a thing throughout the community. ROM hacks and randomizers and people doing bug fixes and optimizing games, and even for modern titles like taking FF15 cough
Hmm.
and bringing it up to 60 FPS plus, adding features that the devs didn't have, but optimizing things that weren't getting the attention they deserved for games that people loved. But, just having a place for that to really take root and then, grow into what it is now. It is a healthy community. There's a lot of interest, and it's just going to keep proliferating and growing on its own now. So, yeah, I mean, I wanted to call that out saying, yeah, cool. It was a great repository. And it's sad that it's not going to host things directly anymore outside of like news and things like that. But what it did for the community and what it has inspired with tournaments and charity events and all sorts of really fun, unique content that really kind of play on people's nostalgia because of the unique things that can come from what we grew up with, is something that I am really appreciative of. It continues to provide and is endless and its entertainment value. So thank you very, 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 very much. And please continue to write about it, be involved, um, stay away from legal issues. There you go.
But seriously, though, stay away from legal issues. Yes,
Yeah.
ROMHacking.net, definitely a cornerstone and all that, definitely instilled a very positive ethos around all that sort of thing. So its contributions and the people who made it such will definitely be felt for years to come yet. So, damn, 20 plus years, we should all be so lucky, right? So, good
Oh, yeah.
job, everyone. Good job. Well, let's follow it up with some actual good news, though. So, back in 2023, SAG-AFTRA, the Studio Actors Guild, I think is the
Yep.
proper acronym or proper explanation of the acronym, um, went on strike for quite a while. In fact, many months, to try to gain protections for their members from this. I'm going to use the largest air quotes possible. AI
Yeah.
stuff to prevent essentially their members from being exploited and taken advantage of even more now that that's possible, that AI crap. So they were successful. They got several protective provisions put in place from the 2023 strike. Just this past July 2024, they called for another strike to seek even more protections, specifically focused around now their voice actors as well as motion capture
Excellent.
actors. Um, that has
So
already borne fruit because they have now
excellent.
gained even more protective provisions as of early this month, August 2024, protecting the likenesses, the voice likenesses of their voice actors, as well as protecting the performance rights of their motion capture actors. Both
Hmm.
are still allowed to engage with AI replication if they so choose, but the terms there are very much in their favor. The minimum baseline is whatever SAG-AFTRA would require for them to be paid for compensation, amongst other performative protections as well. So
Awesome.
unions work, strikes work, fucking power, man. That's great. That's awesome to hear, and we hope to see even more of that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I think the question that I have around that is what happens at the crossroads between AI and it's just parody, bro?
boy,
Like,
that's a good question.
yeah, because that's going to become a legal thing at that point. So I, I don't want to stir it up, but
Yeah,
I know it's going to be a thing.
I think it's already kind of being tested, at least with present legal frameworks. As ill equipped as they are to deal with that sort of thing, there's been a few test things going on with that. Of course, there's always the refrain from the people who boost this stuff uncritically, saying that, well, it's the same thing humans do. And it's like, no, no, it isn't. And it's not illegal, and that, well, it's damn distasteful. So yeah, there's plenty of kind of shit to sort out with that. Um,
On
definitely.
the topic of legality, though,
Oh no.
no, it's actually good.
Oh, good.
I don't have a lot of details about this yet, um, but there is. Oh gosh, I don't want to misrepresent this. There was a complaint by several artists on DeviantArt and other related
Hmm.
websites, going against those websites because their content was being, you know, raked through basically to be used for AI, and they are being allowed to bring suits forward in
Ah,
court. They were
excellent.
allowed to bring lawsuits forward, and that's the last I heard of it. And assuming that anything comes of that, there would be more protections for content creators of any kind than there are now. Any victory is a victory at all,
Mm-hmm.
given the fact
Mm-hmm.
that we're in this landscape of everything is free reign and nobody is attributed and yeah, or attributed rather. Yeah, so I don't have a whole lot of information about that. It has been kind of on the down low on various social media websites because it's very much a grassroots thing. But as I hear more, I'm going to share more because definitely impactful. Because yeah, sure, SAG-AFTRA, very important that the big names out there doing a lot of the recordings, the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
motion capture, the stunts, the everything, all of these trademarks that people have, very important. But everybody else who isn't in the limelight necessarily also needs to have similar protections, especially in visual and audio arts, especially because we have AI out there now that you can just make music based on other music that's already out there, and it's basically just mishmashing shit that already exists together and calling it original, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not. And very similar to image generation technology that takes a prompt and mishmashes other things together in a style, and it's just having protections out there for the little people will cascade everywhere. So I'm very interested in hearing more about that. I'm hoping that anything good happens because anything other than no go away is a victory.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
as I hear more, I'll be talking about it hopefully next month, maybe into October. So we'll see.
Yeah. Between the two of us and the various feeds that we watch, both the same and different ones, and also whatever we hear around there, you can bet that this is a topic that both of us will expound upon quite a
Oh
bit.
yeah.
There's already been some, written word legalities going on. Of course, New York Times had the big prominent lawsuit about that. And even for programming, the lawsuit against Copilot and GitHub and all that.
Mm.
I'm not 100% sure the status on either of those. Really, I think they are still going forward and or still hanging out in some capacity. But again, those are just the big ones that we know about and that cover like the big, really $1 billion corpos, either fighting
Hmm.
amongst each other or otherwise, right? So very interesting times that we're living in. I wish it was less interesting sometimes, but what are you gonna do? All right. Well,
Yeah.
anyways, more positive news. A new world record has been set for number of consoles simultaneously connected to a single display.
Oh,
444, in fact. Thanks to over a dozen HDMI switchers, over 30 RCA switchers, and a whole butt ton of adapters and shit. Um,
okay.
so yeah. Uh, wow.
I'm
It's
concerned about the signal loss.
right. It apparently works. It apparently worked, and apparently it's very well cable managed as well. I did spy a couple pics of this over the past few days.
Okay.
Like, wow, that's impressive. One, that you have 444 consoles to begin with, unique consoles. I mean, some of these included like the little plug and play ones with the two RCA plugs
Sure.
and some of the more obscure ones, but also of course the major well known ones too. But the fact that you can get those all hooked up to a single display with some very obnoxious setup like that is pretty cool. I mean, that's neat. And it has been
I mean, that's the kind of
recognized.
thing that I would do if
Cool.
I had a much larger room and budget.
Right, right. But whew, I mean,
Mad
I
respect though. 444 is a huge
it
number.
is a massive number. I can't be arsed sometimes to hook up one. So
Hmm.
if somebody's got
Yeah,
the
thinking
time and
back to like
energy,
marathon setup and stuff
uh,
and cable management for that. Yeah, okay.
that was
Yeah, sure. I mean,
exhausting.
yes, yes. That was setup and takedown. Granted, I
Hmm.
mean, like, probably, hopefully, once you have this cabled once, you won't feel the need to do it again
Right,
unless you
and
move. Don't
hopefully
move. Just don't ever move.
hopefully you're not thinking
But
about adding any more
yeah,
too, because that might mess up your whole system. Oh
I
boy.
mean, that's the beauty of having switcher boxes at the very least. Like, you just swap it out for something with more inputs, I guess. Maybe.
Right? Yeah.
I don't
Let's
know.
get all the cables right, and hopefully your documentation is up to date, and you know.
I'm just thinking of those like 128 input Extron crosspoint switchers.
Oh
Like,
god.
have at it, I guess.
128. My god. That's a lot.
Uh-huh. It's just a giant cube.
And then it's what, four connectors per input, right? So
Depending. I mean, if you just do composite, it's three maybe if you have
sure.
stereo audio.
So probably
But
up
I
to
don't know.
512 of those plugs that are a bitch and a half to connect and disconnect. Oh goody. Can't wait.
Yeah. I'm like, now that you say that, I'm thinking of just the weight alone of the cabling. Like that's okay. Like, here's a nightmare for you, just being buried in console
Oh,
video
good
cables.
gravy.
Like, you can't escape.
Yeah, that would be
It's
something
I don't like that.
you probably hook to a load bearing cross beam from a ceiling or something. You don't want that free
I
hanging off the
started
back of
thinking like,
those.
yeah, like, okay, I'm thinking like the ha ha ha. We had the 5x5 Calyx with the 20 consoles on it or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then realizing like, wow, this probably should have been anchored to something. And then realizing, oh, somebody has 444 consoles. How the hell do they have that set up? So,
Yeah,
yeah, go check it out. The internet will provide, no doubt, because I'm
it
curious.
will.
So,
It has not been an obscure article. There has been several places that have written about it. So yeah, just
Nice.
check it out. Just type in 444 consoles, I bet, and you'll find a link to it. Pretty incredible.
All right.
One more other piece of pretty good news, I would say. So Valve is apparently making a new MOBA. It's
Oh,
called Deadlock. It hasn't, well, okay, it's not official yet, but it's already managed to rack up 22,000 concurrent players. Very
all right.
curious for a not officially announced game. And also a Valve game at that, too. So, I mean, I'm personally
How does
not into
that work?
MOBAs, but yeah, it's cool that people are, and it's cool that Valve's making games again, apparently. Maybe. Unofficially.
So just dropped it
I don't know.
and didn't
Like,
say anything, or
maybe
what?
there's like this very limited but very still large test run of it for 22,000 people to get in and do whatever it is that they do in Deadlock, right? So maybe a good
Okay.
sign. Maybe a good sign that Valve is now going to start making games again. Who knows? But
The only thing I heard about this outside of what you just shared was that Valve gave someone shit for reporting on it because they hadn't actually like announced it.
ah,
That's as much as I know.
excellent.
Like I think it was
Excellent.
like The Verge or something like that. So
Ah, that's
I,
funny.
um,
Well, the link I have to it is from Engadget, and I think I did see a link from Verge in there as well. And
oh,
the
okay.
the
Well, there you
funny bit
go.
I have about this link is that the little slug for the URL says racks up 16,000 concurrent players, but the headline is
Uh huh.
22,000. So I'd imagine the headline is probably
All right.
correct and had been updated, but it is just funny to see that evolve just been two different data points here in the same article, essentially. All right,
Nice.
that's all I got for news. What's on your list? Hopefully, more good news. I like this good news stuff.
Honestly, yeah. So I was really disheartened because in the last year, I know Vlad wasn't a huge fan of Hi-Fi Rush, but Tango Gameworks, the studio who made Hi-Fi Rush, was a Microsoft property, I guess.
Oh, really? Okay.
And Microsoft after that was just kind of like, eh, and then closed the studio,
Well,
which is
okay.
really weird because Hi-Fi
Oh,
Rush was
right.
really popular and did
Yeah,
really, really
it
well
was a critical
on Game
success,
Pass and
wasn't
whatnot.
it? Yeah,
Yeah, and
right.
um, I was really disappointed to hear that they were closing down and that the IP was going away and everything else because that's a lot of talent that's just suddenly without work and they're really good. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Krafton, the publisher of PUBG Battlegrounds, has apparently made a deal with Microsoft to acquire Tango Gameworks and the IP for Hi-Fi Rush. Um, I don't know the specifics of what's gonna happen with the employees, but allegedly they plan to do more with that game universe.
Mm,
So
okay.
I don't know. I'm hopeful because it's saving people probably from losing their jobs and keeping them on things that they care about and keeping momentum going for something that was honestly pretty cool. So we'll see
So
what happens. I am cautiously optimistic.
cautious optimism is the order of the day. Yeah, better than the alternative, I
As it always
suppose.
is. Yeah. I mean, there okay, like to be a little meta, I guess. There's a lot to be optimistic for in the last month. Like I've been taking time off so I can figure out what's going on with my sleep stuff.
Hmm.
I feel a lot less concerned politically. I'm happy with the engagement that people in my age bracket have had with voting and being
Hmm. Hmm.
civically involved and things like that. So like there are things to be heartened about. So trying to keep that energy going, I guess. And on that, I suppose, Doom and Doom 2, very very games. Like they've been around, they're memed on forever. They are eternal. Ha.
Ah, I
I'll,
get
I'll,
it.
I'll go for the pun.
Oof.
Um, they're getting re-released with what's being called the definitive editions of both.
Oh goodness.
Available now on current gen consoles, and it's on Game Pass. And honestly, it does look pretty cool. It is very much the hey, these are the visual aesthetics of how it looked on DOS. But the frame rate has been amped. There is new content, many new WADs, um, lots of quality of life features, that kind of stuff. And if you have Game Pass, just go play it. If you never played Doom, there's a chance it runs on your Series S and X now, and the Xbone, which I'm not sure supports Game Pass, but who knows?
And also probably a
So
printer and a pregnancy test and probably a
sure,
potato
yep.
battery and possibly the Apple
Hmm.
Watch by now. And yeah, the whole chestnut of, oh, can it run Doom? Yeah, the answer is pretty much yes. Um,
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Kind of one thing associated with this re-release that did cross some of my feeds that wasn't necessarily positive was that the mod management
Hmm.
for it has not been the greatest, in so much as it
Oh,
allows you to publish mods without any verification that you actually made them yourself. So
oh,
that's an
see.
interesting little thing. Very kind of unpolished and unthought of like, hey, maybe this could be an abuse vector. Maybe think about that stuff, you tiny ass studio called Bethesda. Hey. uh
Yeah, they've had some many multiple decades to think about things like
and
that.
id
So
and
no,
whoever else,
that
so
is a concern. Yeah,
why
but
do we
I'm
have to
excited. Feature
yeah,
wise, it looks cool. I don't know. Ah,
more people playing Doom? I think that's good. That's a good positive. We'll go with it.
yeah,
I like it. I still play it every now and again. It's fucking great. So play Doom
yeah. I mean,
and Doom 2.
it like I haven't played it. I probably should at some point because it's like the pacing of it is actually okay compared to modern. Oh God, everything is so fast and
Yeah,
I can't follow it.
that's
Like
true. The classics now, I
I
mean,
get to go at 286 speed.
back in the day, absolutely like really intense, hardcore, etc. By today's standards, pretty calm.
Yep.
But yeah, you should play
So
it just for like the cultural understanding of it too. Like it is definitely a cultural icon of video games. So play
yep.
it or watch it or
Yeah.
whatever you do with it.
I mean, I
Engage with
watch
it.
speed runs. It's great. And like the speed runs skip everything, so maybe I should just watch
They
casual
do.
players.
That's the bad part about speedruns. You hardly see any of it, but it is
Yeah, it's
fun.
all good. The stuff you do see is just like, eh,
Yeah,
wah.
that is true. It is a little bit mind blowing.
But all right, keeping the positive things going here, I think. Turkey has blocked Roblox, citing concerns with abuse of children. So,
I
both in
see.
terms of like taking
Hmm.
advantage of them as creators
Okay. Yeah.
and the potential vector of them being groomed and abused.
Hmm. Okay.
So, yeah, they recently did the same thing with Instagram, I believe it was. So, we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see if this isn't just like thinly veiled something else. But
That could
I
also
mean,
be
on
true.
its face, it appears to be something that's positive. So we will see. Because yeah, Roblox definitely does not at all have a history of exploiting talent from
Yes.
children and then monetizing it. Cough, cough.
Paragon of
Um,
kids media, Roblox.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
we'll continue to follow that and see where that goes. Um, Slightly less happy, but I guess good overall. Um, Long-standing, long-running periodical Game Informer has been shut down by GameStop, and
Hmm.
everything of it has just been poofed away.
Oh, good.
But people have taken it upon themselves to archive everything, so it's out there. Um, a lot of publishers have been reminiscing over the last couple weeks since that announcement was released, talking about how emotional they felt when their titles were featured, how excited they were reading it after getting home from school and
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that, and just like realizing how culturally significant Game Informer has been for the last 2 decades. Gosh, how much was it? 33 years.
33.
God damn.
Wow.
All right.
3 decades
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah. So
Whew.
Game Informer has been around for a long time. And I mean, like, I I became a GameStop Pro reward member at some point, mostly because I thought the magazines were cool, and I never like super like read them all cover to cover, but they were very visually appealing all the time. It was content that I cared about. If I wanted to go reference something that somebody said in conversation, I could probably go look at it and be like, "Oh yeah, that was announced around this time." And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um I miss things like that. Like, I used to be excited about magazines as a kid. And of course, that was like when the internet wasn't as accessible, we'll say.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Especially
but
33 years
I
ago.
remember getting like the weird like Windows sysadmin magazines and the game stuff and the random hobbyist things and would just be like obsessed with the content. And yeah, not having that kind of thing anymore is a little depressing because it's one less physical piece of media that we can get to look at. Now we have to rely on, oh God, there are ads in my face constantly.
Hmm.
Brief tangent, I suppose. Google has killed off microblock origin asterisk. There is an
Oh,
official
right.
registry hack that you can use to continue using it for another year, but that is allegedly it. So speaking of ads in your face, that was related, and I wanted to point it out. Um, but also tangentially related. Speaking of print media, and I think this is true because it's funny that I have to question it. Allegedly, The Onion is returning to print.
What? That sounds like an Onion title.
Allegedly.
Come on.
I know, but like
Deliciously ironic.
I need to do some more research on that, but like
Oh
it's
boy.
weird how this just kind of like snowballed into being related. I read something about this earlier today and like it had an air of authenticity to it. So if it happens, honestly, fine. Like,
Hey, that's great.
okay.
Honestly, yeah, go for it.
Like, for those who don't know, The Onion is a satirical periodical that began at the UW Madison campus. And we are from Madison.
Hmm.
And it's just, it would be nice for that to be a thing. Um, it feels like certain things that stopped being a thing are starting to come back, and that's making me feel good. And don't ruin this for me, okay? Like, I want this to be true.
Toy with
So I
my
really hope it is.
emotions, man.
Exactly. It's like I have so much hope. All right, fine. Speaking of, I want to feel hopeful about this. I want to read this in a positive tone. Capcom
Oh, Kappa Kappa.
aims to increase its ratio of female managers to 15%. Now, that number sounds really low.
It does.
However, women currently make up 21% of their employee base. And allegedly, they're trying to
Okay.
raise that too.
Okay.
So the numbers are close together. So it
I
feels like it's not just there are a
it,
bunch of women working there and none of them are in leadership positions thing. Like, that's kind of what I was afraid of. I'm
yeah.
glad that they are allegedly trying to boost both of those numbers. Um, it feels really low, but it also makes me realize like game design is still pretty niche. And I'm not really sure where things are with sexism in the industry as it is right now. I know it was a problem and continued to be a problem 5 to 10 years ago, that I heard things were improving overall, but then COVID happened, and then all of these studios started shuttering, and then the entire landscape changed. Like, game design as a career right now is pretty rocky. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
stable. It's not never really been a stable thing, but Microsoft closing a bunch of studios just because it's like, we're gonna save some money now. Bye. Just like I don't know. I want to see the good in this. Like, hey, we want to raise these numbers. I'm concerned that they're low. I don't know if it's like I don't know if my concern is well founded, I guess is what I'm saying. I want to see the good here instead of the concern.
Yeah, however, it's very easy to make a claim that they're going to try to raise these numbers. Well, what the hell does that mean? What are they actually going to
Yeah,
do? And I hate to be like
right?
the cold water on that thought, but we've seen this song and dance several times. There's a lot of history to be fighting against here. So hey, if they manage to do it, if they do it, cool, cool and good, cool and good. Please, please, please prove me wrong. That would be good. Please do it. I hate being right. But whew, ah, mm,
I'm desperately trying not to be a cynic about
right?
this.
Yes, I know it's very tough not to be though. Why? Why is it so tough
Yep.
to not be cynical? This fucking whatever. All right.
Yep. I feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, something we can celebrate. The Halo TV show has been canceled.
Oh, well, I don't know if I want to celebrate that. I watched the
Honestly,
first season and I thought it was all right considering the source material. There was one section I
okay.
didn't particularly like, but I thought the rest of it was all right. I didn't see the second
So
season, so I don't
consider
know.
okay, I was gonna say, consider that there was a second season and very few people actually acknowledged that there was a second season
Oh
because apparently it went
no.
very off the rails
Oh no.
in a very bad way.
Oh no.
So yeah, so
Damn.
yeah. Um given what was going on and the sadly kind of funny parallel to what's going on with the games, um
Hmm.
yeah, it's probably good that they just that's done now. Paramount Plus said, nope, this isn't happening.
Well,
So
maybe I shouldn't watch the second season then. 'Cause
I have been told to recommend that.
damn.
I haven't seen any of it. I've just read secondhand accounts and I've seen reactions to certain particular things that happened. And no,
Yeah,
I'm good without seeing
that's
it actually.
that's probably fair. I mean, I didn't intend to really watch it either. Like it's the typical media based on video games thing where we really do not have a high bar to clear before something becomes watchable, passable, just like, oh yeah, let's look at this thing briefly because it exists. And the Halo TV show, well, whatever, it's not even a TV show necessarily. The episodic series that is called Halo, um, I felt was pretty well executed. Sans whatever bit in season one that I don't care to mention. So it kind of
Mhm.
bums me out that season two sounds like is universally not good. Um, oh well.
I'm just giving you what I've heard.
Okay. Well, you know what? That's fair.
So
That's fair.
if you choose to maybe skim some reviews or whatnot, you can make your own judgment call. But I heard some pretty unsavory things, so we'll
Ah,
just leave it
damn
there. Yeah,
it.
but I'll wrap it up with something interesting at the very least. Um, so the FAT32 file system's been around for a long time, right?
Yeah, it's
Um,
pretty mature, long in the tooth, etc.
uh-huh. And the Windows format your partition dialog has largely stayed the same since Windows 95. Honestly, like I'm just going to bring it up right now and just confirm that that's the case. I'm going to format my C drive. Let's go. You cannot format this.
Oh, what?
Um
Can't have any fun.
oh man. No, I can't format anything. This is so disappointing. I don't have anything I can put in. Fine, whatever. I am 99% sure that this is almost the same damn thing that showed up in Windows 95. That format dialog window was coded by a prolific and fantastic programmer, Dave Plummer, who has all sorts of very interesting YouTube content out there about his time at Microsoft and the innards of Windows and things like that. Um, but apparently, he made the decision to cap the partition size limit at 32 gigs because of the concern about like wasted clusters and whatnot. And since then, in 1994, when that it has touched and unchanged until now. So
Interesting. Okay.
Microsoft's most recent Canary build has actually removed the 32 gigabyte limit on creating a FAT32 partition and has raised it to 2 terabytes.
Wow. Now we're
Well,
cooking.
formerly, yeah, formerly you had to use a different OS or a third-party tool to create FAT32 partitions above 32 gigs, and that limitation's going away. And if you want to make one larger than 2 terabytes, what the fuck is wrong with you? So, yeah, I run into this amusingly quite a bit. I write utilities to do sysadmin things, and I something to stick a flash drive in and create media with very particular parameters, and it's very reliable to boot a machine off of a FAT32 partition, and it's not reliable to boot a
Mhm.
flash drive off of NTFS still.
Ah,
So
boy. That stuff, huh?
regardless of it being EFI or legacy, FAT32 still pretty primo. But flash drives could be quite large these days, and I still have to look at it and be like, well, if this drive is larger than 32 gigs, sorry, Sonny, your partition can only max out at that 32 gigs, and we're gonna regs the rest of it. So yeah, I look forward to future builds of Windows 11 question mark removing that so I can get rid of that check and stop wasting disk space. The 4 gigabyte file
Mm.
limitation, however, is part of the file system spec. That's not changing.
That's what I
So
was about to ask about. Do they
so
still limit you to 4 gig?
yep. So you still
That's
have to break up your WIM files into SWM 1, 2, 3, or whatever. So, yay, building Windows Media is fun. Fortunately, PowerShell has made all of that really easy. I love that. PowerShell. Okay, this is unrelated. Actually, kind of, maybe related. It's PowerShell. It's news-ish.
sure.
Um, so PowerShell 7. Um, PowerShell 7.4 introduced support for .NET 8. And that's really fantastic because Windows PowerShell 5.1 is based off of .NET Framework 4.6.2.
Oh, gross.
Yeah. So I have been slowly meandering from PowerShell into C# over the last year because PowerShell doesn't do everything that I want it to. So it's actually kind of trivial to add C# code in PowerShell and use it in PowerShell. You add it as a type. Basically, you add a class and methods, and you call the class and method, and it just does the thing. It compiles it on the fly. It's super cool. Cool. So that's all great and stuff. So I ran into something lately where I wrote some admittedly cursed code, and I didn't really feel like backporting it from .NET 8 to .NET Framework 4.6.2, and decided to just start using PowerShell 7. It had been a while. I needed to make the jump up to PowerShell Core 7 and just get past the .NET Framework garbage. Um, there is a bug that was introduced somewhere between Windows PowerShell 5.1 and the version of PowerShell that I'm using now, 7.4.4, where if you write text to the console that has a background color and the console scrolls, it doesn't cancel the background color, and instead it just continues keeping it. So it just
Oh,
smears
good.
it forever until something else happens that changes the background color. Um, I I wrote a shim that replaced the write host function so that it would instead use ANSI control codes to set the background and foreground characters and explicitly set a reset character at the
Man.
end of the line so that you could continue to use the write host command, but it wouldn't do that. So I did that. Hooray! That was my news, I guess. But we were talking about PowerShell tangentially related. I was proud of that. I finished that code yesterday, so that's news-ish for me.
You fixed a bug.
But
Congrats.
I did. At some point, I just really need to make a public repo of like random PowerShell shit and just be like, "Here you go, world. I figured all this stuff out. I don't know why I've never told anyone how before, but here you go." Um, so yeah, I think that's it for both my official and tangential news. Shall we jump into TuneScape?
Fantastic. That sounds like we're ready for some music then. Let's do it.
Alrighty. So we're going to start the evening with Legendary Depths by Rebecca E. Tripp, Gamer of the Winds, Medlix, and Stephen Higby from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Then we'll go into Crystal Galactico by Tiboni from Bravely Second End Layer, and end with Howling and Hollow by Earth and Erica Richards from Final Fantasy VII Remake.
was consumed with this emptiness, this selfishness, this void to fill. Hear me once more, show me your smile. This time for sure, I'll see truth hidden inside your tears.
All right, up to what we've been playing since last time. Historically, your list has been fairly short, but that's understandable considering all the other stuff that you've been up to recently. But what have you got this time?
I've been writing some code, a lot of it,
Okay, fun.
and that's is about that we're gonna. I've defied it for myself. Let's just be real. Like that's my new game. I write things and I get the pleasure of actually having it not destroy my hardware. Yeah.
That's a creative outlet, right? You're making stuff. That's
Yeah.
important. That's the important bit, really.
Yeah. I mean, like I have found endless projects lately. I keep learning new things and I'm like, oh shit, I could do all of these other things I've already done differently. And then the um autistic desire to go back and fix everything and make it perfect is definitely driving me to continue to iterate and test and iterate. And I'm pretty content with how things are right now. And now, as of today, have an ARM 64 machine that I can test against. I look forward to it. So I've been writing a lot of code and doing a lot of prep and doing a lot of sysadmin things and playing around in my home lab environment and doing all sorts of fun stuff. So yeah, um, doing a lot of those kinds of things and reading and getting involved in forums again. Who knew? Um, while other people play games and I watch them play games, sometimes on Twitch, sometimes when Vlad is playing games, who has been playing all sorts of interesting things lately. So um, yeah, I
Okay.
have been doing the game of wipe my laptop 8 times this month so that I
Oh,
could test random weird Windows 11 Ubi
oh
quirks. And
no.
yeah, yeah, it's been a time, but no, I'm learning a lot. This honestly does kind of feel like a game to me. It's weird. It's very puzzly. There's a lot of puzzling going
Ah,
on. So
puzzle games, you say.
um, yeah. I I have been slowly inching toward actually getting my stream PC put back in this rack that's next to me here, so that I could do something that I started last year and haven't finished yet, which is Kefka's Tower in Final Fantasy VI. That is still on my to-do. Um, I still need to finish Octopath Traveler again. Um, yeah. I have a backlog of RPGs, which is completely unheard of. Who knew? Um, but all of these new things keep coming out, and then Game Pass games drop, and then I fart around on Minecraft, which I guess I did some of, but I wouldn't really necessarily call it playing. I just kind of like tested things and made sure that the server was up and was in the world for a little bit occasionally. And okay, I played Minecraft, I guess. But um I kind of want to play Dungeons again at some point. I actually like installed it on my laptop, and I need to get a controller synced with Bluetooth so that I could just play it instead of struggling on the Xbox, because the multiplayer experience for Minecraft Dungeons is a lot better when you have like multiple PCs playing,
Hmm.
because you don't
Yeah.
all have to be on the same screen at once.
Ah, yeah. That's a good point.
So yeah, so there are things that I'm interested in doing, but I'm kind of butting up the against the end of summer here, and we've got a lot going on. So I'm hoping like maybe this time next month I'll have a little bit of time to play something, but we're going to be pretty busy. So um, I have ideas for what I want to do next, and FF6 is probably the first thing that's going to end up being on Twitch. Hopefully, that's going to be a thing. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know if I mentioned this in the past. When Vlad and I were living in Tennessee, we like had this really dumb idea of a bad werewolf game marathon over Halloween. Um, Yeah, there are quite a few really, really bad werewolf games on Steam. And most of them are
Huh.
pretty cheap. So yeah, we have a list somewhere that we made back then, and we probably actually have quite a few of them already in our Steam library from, oh, why is this free? Download. Um,
Oh
we know
no.
why.
There's a
Um,
reason.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that might be a thing if we have the spoons this year. It's definitely going to be a thing eventually. But I've been kind of like getting in the mood to do something stupid, and that definitely is pretty stupid. So, that might be a thing. Yeah, that's obviously not a thing I did this last month, but a thing that may happen in a month or two or three, I guess, because Halloween is in 2.5 months. But
Right, right.
yeah. Yeah.
So what's the most interesting thing then you've seen in the past month? You said you've watched a few things. If
So
anything comes to mind, of course.
I've liked. Okay, so there's an interesting continuum of things that kind of like bind a few of these games together. So Minecraft, Cobalt Core, and Sunshine Heavy Industries are three games that have crossed my eyeballs in the last month. And all of them have one thing in common, and it's Cherov's music. So, um, outstanding music, very I mentioned this to Vlad the other day, like very John Williams-esque in the like definitely has a style, definitely maybe doesn't always intend to, but definitely has motifs that are very him. Um uh the soundtracks for all three of those games are outstanding. Cherov has made a lot of modern Minecraft music. Also made the entire soundtrack for Cobalt Core and Sunshine Heavy Industries. Those two games are in the same universe. Um, both of those games are really outstanding. If I haven't talked about Cobalt Core in the past, it is an interesting combination of, we'll say, FTL and Slay the Spire and furries. um, but
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, the soundtrack is really cool. It is honestly pretty chill. It's one of those games where if you understand the strategy, like the hardest difficulty isn't nearly as punishing as a game like FTL is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it is a deck builder. It is not as long of a deck builder as Slay the Spire. There are multiple areas, and you have to obviously like do boss battles in between them. It's very inspired by other games like it, but Um, it's very chill. It's got a really good formula. The folks who made it, the name escapes me at the moment. They
Rocket
drop a
Rat
lot of
Games,
updates.
apparently.
Yes, they drop a
Okay.
lot of updates. They do a lot of cough cough A/B testing without telling people. Oh
Oh,
boy, what's
good.
this random 3 megabyte update without a patch note?
Oh,
Let's
those
find
are
out, I
all over the
guess.
place, everywhere. I hate it.
Oh, I know. It's just fun. But the care and detail that they have in the stuff that I've been involved in seeing so far, at least, is pretty top notch. They have a personality that really shines through in those games, through their characters and their writing. Um, the soundtracks obviously super vibey. Charov's music is a vibe everywhere it is. Um, I really highly recommend Cobalt Core. Honestly, like I kind of recommend playing Cobalt Core before Sunshine Heavy Industries, the order that we did it in, because you start to like see NPCs and other things from Cobalt Core in Sunshine Heavy Industries, and you're like, oh, that's
I
this,
see.
or
Okay.
you like get the backstory after you like see the future. I don't know. I think this perspective is pretty neat, but um, yeah, it's been real cool. Beyond that, I've just been watching a lot of YouTube videos about game music, especially. 8-Bit Music Theory hasn't been posting a lot lately. Instead, I've been watching other channels that kind of break it down. Um, Still very much into game music as like my preferred genre, which is really just a meta genre. Um, but yeah, I mean that's the kind of involvement that I've had lately. In terms of like actually, what is the word I'm trying to think of here? Blank content. I am
Consuming,
partaking in content, but it's thank you,
engaging,
consumption. There we are.
consumption. There you
The
go.
consumption of gaming related content. Most of that has been music or like the history behind things or the cutting room floor kind of stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
TCRF is definitely still going and it's prolific and I love it and it's super cool. Um, I'm starting to like seek out interesting speed run videos. Like, um, I'm really curious what happens with, like, for instance, this last month, I think it was, the SNES port that I don't remember who did this. We'll fix it up in the notes. There was a SNES port that was made by someone of Zelda 2, and
Mm.
it's really cool. And like it's pretty faithful, but I have to imagine that like being able to take advantage of what the SNES hardware can offer will make that a unique speed run at some point if people choose to do that. Um, Actually, speaking of Zelda 2 and speedrunning specifically, the any percent route had a major breakthrough this month, and the route is a fair bit shorter. And Eon, who we all know and love, um, reduced her time a fair bit and got a PB just by means of, hi, this route's a lot more optimized. Here's basically free time. So um, I haven't looked at enough of those runs to really know what the differences are yet. I've really only watched like a couple hours of somebody grinding, but like I know it's a thing. Zelda 2 continues to be pretty sweet. So yeah, you should play that Zelda 2 PC port fan game thing at some point. It's honestly really good.
Yeah, I had it written down somewhere. Didn't it have like a clever name to it or something like that?
Yeah, I don't it's been like 6 months since I like hyper focused on all of the content on it constantly on Twitch. Um
Remember.
just the amount of things that were added to the game that complement it so well are just numerous. There are just so many really cool things that were done with that game. Before I forget about it, Vlad had also started playing Leica, Aged Through Blood, I think it was. Let me double check the title real quick.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
it's Leica Aged Through Blood. Go ahead.
Zelda again, Link is Adventuresome. I think that's what it was called. The Zelda 2 thing.
Yeah, yeah, something
That's
like
right.
that. Yeah, Link is Adventures. Yeah, it was something funny, but um,
Oh, there it is. Okay.
there is quite a twist on the game. Um, you have the very faithful recreation of the OG game, and then you have everything else, and the everything else is big, and it's really cool. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of what was done. So I would love if you ever played that. I would watch the shit out of that at some point. Like I know I said that about Outer Wilds, but I'm gonna go back to that at some point. That's a thing. Watching people play games like that are always a good time.
Very good. Well, at the very least, now I've got like 2 additional things to add to my possibly to playlist. Cobalt Core being one of
Yeah.
them, since you were talking it up so much there, and then this
Oh yeah, it's
Zelda 2 thing.
outstanding.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
If you want to do a Metroidvania on a motorcycle, which is apparently called a Motorvania, that's a thing.
I'm sorry, excuse
Leica
me.
Aged Through Blood is a game. It is frustratingly difficult to control.
Oh,
It is
good.
very gory. It has an otherworldly good soundtrack, and really good writing and an outstanding visual style, but it is a challenge to play. But I think it's the kind of challenge that you might actually like because it's like precision platforming and precision movement and things like that. It's very
It's
ish.
a motorcycle, for sure.
Yeah.
Wild.
So
Okay.
yeah, it's
Very
got some
good.
interesting glitches. That's as much as I know. But that's been an interesting game. Vlad's kind of needed to take breaks from it because of the movement issues that require a lot of like finesse and very specific types of movement.
Oh, good.
But the overall kind of vibe from things is actually really engaging. So I can recommend it from a story, music, and style standpoint at the very least.
All right, I'll just slap that on this ever-growing list again too. Oh, no problem, no problem.
Big thumbs up.
I was like going through these lists and actually getting them down a little bit, and then now suddenly, oh crap, here's an additional 3 tonight. Just so awesome.
You're welcome.
Oh well, that's good.
But of course,
Good stuff.
you've been churning through things as you always do.
Yeah. Some things take longer than others, and some things I want to keep playing more than others too. So when we were discussing this last month, I was still playing Wizard of Legend, which that I've now wrapped up. It was a frustrating game in the moment sometimes because it just always felt like I was either reacting a split second later than I needed to, or the other way around. It wasn't conveying something fast enough that I needed to do something about. So I finished it with a run that beat the final boss, but it was a double KO. So I got the achievement for beating the final boss, but I didn't get to see any of the fun like end of game cinematics or whatever result screens or anything like that. So I'm like, oh, come on. So
That's rude.
yeah, so it's just like, all right, well, technically I beat it, so whatever. So I put it aside, but I kept playing it off stream just a little bit, and I finally did beat it again, and I got like the end, the credits roll, and kind of the end little bit before you sign off the actual run, and it's like, oh, this is really cool. This is a really cool like end sequence. So I'm glad I went back and got it finally for realsies. But that was a fun game overall, and I really just played that to prepare for Wizard of Legend 2, which isn't out yet, but I know it's a thing. And it's in fact made by
Okay.
a different developer altogether, I think, is when I was reading about it. Which is kind of
Huh.
strange, right? You would think
Like sharing IP or
it's
what?
sort of like it's supposed to be like a direct sequel to Wizard of Legend, but it's not made by the same folks. Or maybe it's the same folks just under a different name. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't look that deeply into it. Um, but
All right.
Wizard of Legend is done dust now is a fun game. This fun little twin stick proc gen. I guess it's technically a deck builder because you do equip cards and those control your abilities or whatever. So it's one of those very loose deck buildery type things.
Sure.
After that, I started up Star Renegades, which I'm still going through right now. This is an interesting turn-based game. I'm not really big on turn-based, generally speaking, but it's also one of those games that is mostly deterministic, and it'll actually show you what will happen when, in what order, and what the result is going to be. So you'll get damage numbers
Okay.
and defenses and all that. So that's good and bad because it lets me think about things forever and a day before taking an action and be like, well, is that the best action? Oh, I bet I can not take a hit if I do it this way.
No.
Blah 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 blah. Right? So
Tactical RPG.
yeah, it is actually a tactical RPG. Yeah, you're right.
All right.
Except not you don't move units around. It's just it's not necessarily linear, but you have kind of an overworld that you can take different paths on, and then it's just battles from there on out. But it's
Sure.
really fun and interesting. It's got a great kind of chunky pixely style, which I'm totally into. I get to yell at characters all the time, which is great. The writing is kind
You do
of
that.
yeah, I do. I do. The writing for like the flavor text and stuff is kind of it's passable, but it's not stuff that I'd stick around to read that much. I'm just like, yeah, okay, get me to the next battle so I can do some things, please. The first run that I went through, it took me like 3 or 4 nights to get through, 3 or 4 sessions. And then something happened on like the final turn of the penultimate boss, I think, where I was like, oh yeah, okay, this turn I'm gonna survive, no problem. Something went in a slightly different order and I got wiped. I'm like, oh
What?
damn it. Oh, all that
This is
time.
rude.
It was rude because I thought I had, done things properly because I could see the results and it's like, oh, maybe I missed something and something fired off in slightly the wrong order and suddenly I'm dead. It's like, fuck.
Oops.
But I'm still going with it. I'm still on just my second run through of it. I'm getting to kind of like the final area again. Sort of understand a little bit more about what's going on. So maybe this one will have a better result, but who knows? That'll be maybe resolved by next week. SBC side of things, our new shmup for a month of August is Ginga Fukei Densetsu Sapphire. A mouthful of a title.
Okay.
Yeah, It's another shmup for
Legend is in there somewhere.
yeah, right. I have no idea. I think Sapphire is the name of one of the characters, so that's the final word in the title. It's another PC Engine shmup, and I think this is the second month in a row we've had one of those. So it's kind of weird. Like the music and stuff is pretty well done, but then the sound effects are not the greatest, and it's like it's a Japanese game, so you don't understand any of the text that's on there. So I'm sure they're talking about something important or whatever, explaining the story and the deep lore or whatever. It's just like, I don't know what they're talking about. That's been kind of fun. It's a very rude game. Stage 3 has not let anybody get past it. Any of us that have been playing
Wait,
it.
a
So
fruit shmup?
yeah, I know. Sit down for that one. Yeah. So that's been troublesome. Most of the folks who were on the SBC call yesterday played it at least a little bit. But we've all kind of centered around, yeah, this is a game that doesn't like you, and you can play it once and probably be done.
Nice.
Our quarterlies are still rolling. I played a little bit of Universe, which is the Gradius fan game that I had mentioned a little bit last time. Just for grins, you can adjust which loop you start on, and you can also adjust the difficulty. So just for grins, I put it up to starting on loop 99 on the hardest difficulty that they supplied. And I made it through like stage 4 or something. It's like, well, this wasn't so bad.
Okay.
I was expecting it to just get wiped out immediately, but it was
Yeah, I was expecting just the Right out of the air.
Yeah, right. But it's a not unreasonable game for being patterned after Gradius, which is kind of surprising. And
All right.
it's free. It's a
That
fan game,
sounds a little
so
more fair.
so go grab it. It's actually kind of fun. And
Nice.
now we come to the Sunday long play. Oh boy. So I've picked up Talos Principle 2 again. They released their Road to Elysium DLC. And it's a fairly extensive DLC too. Like, it's got many more puzzles. I'm on the final section of them, which are the hardest of them. So I only get through like maybe 7 or 8 in an evening because they're mind busters, but it's fun. It's fun. I've been enjoying going back to it, and I probably still have at least 2 or 3 more Sundays with it, just based on what's left. Plus a few things I need to go back and kind of clean up too. Just a few of them that I skipped over in the earlier segments that were like, you don't need to do these to move on. But I don't know where they are, so it's like, oh, okay, I'll come back to it maybe.
Sure.
And a few other things here and there. I still play Sopwith, the shmup from 1984.
Yep.
Sort of on the regular still, because it's just easy to pull up and do a run or two and then get mad and shut it down. I played a little bit of Doom since we were talking about it as well, and a little bit of Final Fantasy 1 rando as well. I've been trying to experiment with the just absolute obnoxious number of options they have for FF1R. It's just like, oof. Most of these I'm not going to be able to touch because there's no way I can do it. But I've started doing like their Triforce Hunt mode, which is Shard Hunt or whatever, and it's actually kind of fun. It's much less linear than doing the 4 orbs and then do the full Temple of Fiends Revisited, and yeah, once you get to a certain point, it's really not a rando anymore, right? It's just like but Shard Hunt has been interesting to play. I think that's about it. And then of course we'll see, maybe by next month I will have tried one of the 3 you just recommended to me. It might be looking at a new game after Star Renegades is wrapped up here shortly, so that'll be fun.
Cool.
Okay, how about some more tunes? We're getting to that point of the night already. Let's start with a remix from Mega Man X2 entitled Battle Against a Sponge by Jan Wake, Matt Matat, and Kev Ragone, followed by a remix from Shadow of the Colossus entitled On the Shoulders of Giants by The Man PF, Na Dewan Lagert, and Zach Chapman, and then finishing off with a remix from Undertale entitled You Can Always Come Back Here by Immunator and Hotline Sawani. Okay, what dice are we rolling tonight to see which of our 3 random sets of stuff we're making games against? Well, what's the
Oh
bets? We
boy.
taking odds here?
Well, we're probably gonna end up with roll 3 again.
Yeah, safe money will say well, roll 3, I'm sure. But anyways, we're up to ad hoc design here. Let's make a game.net/game idea generator. Gives us what? Rule, setting, genre, and theme. And we make a
Yep.
game around all of those things. We try to, at any rate. So
We
here
usually
we
get
go.
one of each. We can get up to 2. We know the rules. We ready to go, I guess?
Yeah, let's do it. So what's our first initial one since you pulled it up there? We cannot use
All
these
right.
by according to the bylaws, I suppose. Um,
Yep. So this one that I just pulled up here has one each of a genre, rule, setting, and theme. The genre is survival. The rule is one enemy. The setting is cyberpunk, and the theme is serial killer.
oh, okay. Well, that's
It kind of writes
a
itself.
little on the nose.
Yeah, it's basically Terminator, the game.
Survival
So-
and one enemy is interesting, though. I don't think we've seen one enemy before, have we? They might have added that recently.
No, I don't think so.
Dang, I kind of feel bad about not being able to use that one now. Oh well.
Oh. Oh, well, indeed. Roll number 1. Here we go. Click on that generate button. All right, cool. So we did end up with 2 genres here.
Ooh.
All right. So genre number 1 is farming.
Okay. What a
And
good
genre
start.
number 2 is building sim.
Oh, that's very
So-
strong.
They kind of go hand in hand. The rule is running out of power.
Okay.
Oh, actually, wow, this all really goes together well. The setting is distant future, and the theme is natural disaster.
Wow. All right. Huh.
So it's add 50 years Twister the movie. Okay.
Yeah. God, farming kills it for me. The rest of it's
Honestly,
okay.
I mean, yeah.
But farming is just kind of like, Is Farmville still a
Feel
thing?
like-
Does Facebook or Meta still do that? Was it Meta?
I don't know.
remember.
I don't. I'm not gonna look.
Yeah, please don't look.
I-
I was just like, thinking out loud, I guess.
I like the concept of this being a movie, but maybe not a game.
Yeah, that's true. Like if we were to roll with this, like with farming in there, it'd be like, hey, yeah, let's raise a barn as the building sim portion, and that's it,
Yeah.
pretty much. Ugh.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm.
yeah, we're both kind of like, nah, not doing
All
that
right.
one.
Cool.
Very good.
Moving on. Second roll. Let's go. Generate. Here we go. All right. 1 each this time. All right. Fine. Actually, this is another interesting one. The genre is text based,
Hmm.
which I'm already a fan of.
Okay. into
The
that.
rule is nothing is permanent.
Ooh.
The setting is high fantasy,
Okay.
and the theme is conspiracy.
Huh. I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, so already this is amusingly Fantasties, the text game. Yeah. So nothing is permanent. So in that game, go to the dream world and come back. But things persist, but kind of not, but kind of do. And you never really know what's actually true. So yeah, that's kind of weird. George McDonald, the text game. This would really go well in the 70s, honestly.
Yeah. Ain't not wrong.
So yeah, I really dig the vibes, honestly. I'm just not sure how creative my design is gonna be.
See, when we got the first two there, the text space and nothing is permanent, I immediately went a little bit literal on it and went, oh yeah,
Yeah.
you're typing into a terminal and your terminal scroll back is not that large. So bye bye. Hopefully you remembered what you typed like 20 lines ago.
Yeah, I mean, just don't. You don't get an RC history file.
Nope,
Just nope.
nothing like that.
Sorry.
No Control Shift page up to scroll back in the terminal that you're using. Nothing like that. Um, but yeah, I don't know how that would mesh with high fantasy, of course, but that's just where my mind went to.
So like, it's kind of funny that you mentioned this, and blame Saxon for me thinking about this, but the whole concept of Elbereth being rubbed away.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
I mean, where it's just nothing is permanent. Yeah. Yeah. So, wow, it's been a while since I've been thinking about those kinds of games, but yeah, no. I really like this idea in concept. I don't have enough formative experience with it to really feel like I can make something that's super, I don't know, cohesive probably is the better
Yeah.
word for that. Um, but I mean, we can definitely keep it. I think it's pretty neat. Text based, like I am colored by the things that I'm aware of, like Rogue, a thing that I'm aware of, getting eaten by a Gru, a thing I know of. Like,
Yeah, I'm very much steeped in the text adventures of old, where you put a command in and you hope that the parser
yeah,
understands it, type stuff, right?
yeah. And honestly, like that's the kind of thing that I really feel would be fun to do at some point because making a parser definitely seems fun. Um, rather designing something and being like, "Hey, make a parser." That seems fun.
Ah,
Yeah. Man, I just really feel like I'm out of my element
hmm.
with this, which is weird because high fantasy is in there, but like that's also something I'm actually kind of out of my element on. Um,
So yeah, I am too. But what do you know about high fantasy though? Like I'm kind of struggling to even envision what that is. It's like I've heard
so
fantasy, yeah,
like
sure, but like, is there a difference between normal fantasy and high fantasy? And
great question.
like,
So the high fantasy that I'm thinking
it
of
depends.
is like
Um, hmm,
the ethereal plane is crossed from reality into something else, and these fantastical types of creatures exist with a world that is similar but doesn't quite make sense and goes against your preconceptions of how things work.
I see.
Um, like, would we call Lord of the Rings high fantasy? Eh. Um,
I don't know.
let me see if I can find some concrete examples here.
I asked the sum total of human knowledge here to see what I could find here, and
Yeah.
lo and behold, Wikipedia has an
So,
article on it. So it's like, oh, heck, oh,
yeah, so I was kind of right there. Yeah, it's a high
yeah,
fantasy
it's like
usually set in an alternative, fictional, or secondary world rather than the real or primary world. It's usually internally consistent, but the rules differ from those of the prime. Wow, I was
yeah,
actually
more or
pretty spot
less,
on with
yeah.
that. Okay. Oh, let's see here. So it's a subgenre of fantasy defined by the epic nature of its setting or by the epic stature of its characters, themes, or plot.
Huh?
Okay. Um, okay.
Hmm.
So the the issue with my preconception of high fantasy is that it's old. Um, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what what could we do as modern creators to fabricate a world that would fit within those boundaries? So it's an ultra fictional world.
Right. If you.
Okay, so I mean like
Hmm.
Sword Art Online,
Yeah, like
honestly.
the big virtual reality shit, right? Like that's almost
Yeah,
essentially the
like
modern
that's
day equivalent of this stuff, right?
that's actually probably what a lot of its appeal was too, because like we got so steeped in fables and things like that. cultural stories, myth,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the modern technological equivalent of that was basically that show. And wow, actually that probably is what drew me into it was very formulaic, but it took that formula and applied modern concepts inside of it. So then the problem with me thinking about this is being colored by that. Um, so we can actually kind of touch on Bravely Default because that world was very much high fantasy, come to think of it. So, kind of spoilers, there are parallel worlds going on in Bravely Default.
Okay. Yeah.
And you're in a time loop based on the things that you don't know you're doing wrong, but you're doing wrong. And everything inside of that world behaves in a way that is consistent, but your understanding of that consistency is incorrect. And that's actually a really interesting mechanic. So the conspiracy part of it could very well be something like, I'm not going to name her, but there's a character in the game who very much plays off of your naivete and causes all of the problems
I
and
see.
everything
Okay.
to really spiral in the way that it does. So, yeah, honestly, okay. So text-based Bravely Default. Honestly, okay. If I frame it like that, I can start to get some ideas.
Okay.
So, um, it would be hard. Hmm, I'd be hard pressed not to do something that was at least reminiscent of being turn-based. By its nature, text-based games take an input and then you have to see what happens. I mean
Right. Yeah.
that is the essence of turn-based games. So I kind of feel like we're kind of forced into that, but what are some ways we can break away from that? So what can we do with text that allows us to break that mold if we wanted to? We don't have to. I'm just trying to think of like what could we do to escape that?
Right.
And that was a pun.
I see. Haha. Very good. I see. Firstly, it sounds like we're going with this set. We're doing the fabled second roll tonight. It sounds. Um.
Honestly, like it kind of vibes now that I'm thinking about like high fantasy as a concept instead of as a thing that happened in the 1600s in literature. And like I do like it. Um I am very curious about roll 3, but we're always curious about the rolls that don't
Right.
take.
Right. But I feel like we're at an elevation with this one where it's probably more likely that we'll get a shittier set of things if we roll again. So I'm okay doing this set
Yeah.
and not risking it this
Yeah.
time. And we can roll with this.
I
Okay.
will say that the first roll was strangely cohesive, but it was
I
not the kind of thing that I
guess.
wanted.
Yeah, I mean, all the things that
But
rolled
this,
together
yeah,
were fine on their own. They had a good through line to them, but it was just like,
yeah, yeah.
wasn't feeling it, you know?
Yep,
Okay,
definitely.
cool. So we're sticking with this set here. Text based, nothing is permanent, high fantasy, and
Yeah.
conspiracy. Um,
Yep.
to your earlier question about how to like break out of the standard turn based thing, I do like text based stuff purely for the reason that it gives you plenty of time to think about it. Generally speaking, some of them
Yeah.
have like the built-in internal timer or whatever. Oops, you didn't do the thing fast enough. You're fucked. So I don't want to do
Yep.
that personally. Um, and
Ooh.
since this is text based, I mean, we're not limited to purely text, of course. Um, but I do like the idea of not always visually showing the precise, makeup of everything or the layout of everything or what something looks like or whatever. Give a little ambiguity to it to let the player imagine stuff. My God.
I think I have a framework.
Okay.
So, um, okay. I got to get all this collected in my head. So, imagine that it is turn-based in a way, But instead of being direct commands, you're instead actually writing a letter or something like it back and forth with somebody in a parallel dimension
Okay.
because you've started to figure out that something's going on and you found a way to send a message across the void. So the lack of permanency here is the notion that your reality is currently being destroyed. It's being ripped asunder by something, and it's systematically going from one to the next, destroying them all. But you've caught on somehow to something happening, and the big bad hasn't figured out that you've got this MacGuffin going on, and you're able to communicate with another version of your world through text. And the
Okay.
only thing you can do is communicate with text. You can't leave like visual clues, you can't send items, you can't cause events to happen, but they have knowledge of things that you don't, and likewise. At this point, it is the mutual exchange of knowledge. And the more that you share based on the things that you discover, the more that you'll be able to benefit mutually.
Okay.
And I think like the big thing here that would make it super interesting and keep that air of mystique is never really knowing until the very end what the thing actually is or what the concept is or whatever the case is. Whatever force is ripping apart reality, it needs to be obscured in some way that isn't like really fake and a gimmick, but it needs to be something that has depth to it that isn't just a like, oh, this is just something from TV tropes. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be the same thing across different universes, and it could change. This could be one of those things where like every time you play it's different.
Hmm.
Um but like I want it to be an experience where it's like playing 20 questions, except it's not super obvious after question 4, if that makes much sense.
Yeah, I get you. I'm just kind of grappling with the idea that if you were playing this either yourself or even in a very small group of people, like how do you do such information passing without having the overarching knowledge that you're doing it, like to other timelines, other selves, or other whatever? Like, how do you not make that accumulated knowledge kind of break this thing wide open, essentially from go? I do like the
I think
idea.
the
Go ahead.
I think the thing that makes that possible is that these different realities may have different things happening, but many of the same telltale signs. So while you may make a discovery on your side and determine, hey, what happens if you do this thing with a candle? What color does the flame turn or some such?
I see.
Like
Okay.
if you do this very specific thing and like ask questions and tell them what happens for you, like you like that's the progress. Like as you make these small discoveries that like causes more dialogue for them to prompt you to do more things and you to make more discoveries and notice more things and prompt them to do more.
Hmm.
Like I want this very much to be able to be done as a single player thing. Like there has to be some way for that to be feasible. Um and I'm still trying to figure out like how can we make this big bad, this calamity, whatever the thing is, how can we keep it undiscovered until the very end. Like, how can we make that happen while also building up all of this other information? Like, I don't want it to basically be like one night ultimate werewolf across the void. Like, that's not the kind of thing I'm looking for. I
Sure.
want something that's like actually going to get personal investment in the story, because the person on the other side is basically you. And it is a story of survival in ways, I guess. But like, I'm really trying to figure out like how to make that work mechanically. Um, Not really coming up with anything that's great.
I like the idea of this information passing happening. Perhaps something that can be done with it then is that, sure, you might be able to communicate with these other timelines, other planes, whatever it happens to be, but each time you do so, it may also have some effect on them that is as yet unknown until you tie some of the pieces together, right? So
Yeah, roast.
you could then be like, oh, well, I could communicate now and send this information now, but what is it gonna do? What is it gonna do? Is it gonna affect something on my end? Is it gonna affect something on my my end? Is it going to change something materially? Is it going to be subtle? Is it etc.
Actually, that's interesting because like you could have the idea of like reagents or catalysts that are required to actually like make the communication happen,
Mm-hmm.
or like to
Mm-hmm.
actually send the message or whatever the case is. And based on what you do or your method or the tools or materials involved, it could augment or imperil, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that idea.
And when you said that, my mind immediately jumped to the Resident Evil Ink ribbons for saving, which was,
Oh, sure.
kind of goofy. Like they always gave you way more than you actually needed. But of course, for someone as paranoid as I tend to be with saving before or after events, I would probably run out of them. But some sort of natural limiting factor like that, so you're not just constantly being like, oh yeah, here, I farted against the breeze the other day, maybe that'll help you type thing. Like the worthless
Yeah.
stuff sending back and forth wouldn't be a good idea to burn your catalysts or whatever on.
Yeah, sure. I like that. Yeah, you have to determine how to economize your resources against the information and how important it is that you share whatever it is.
Because maybe it's not important at all, and maybe in sending that it does affect something that you didn't need to do. You didn't need to communicate this trivial bullshit, and now suddenly you have, I don't know, accelerated the big bad or somehow or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Well, actually, so the mechanic that I'm starting to put together is whatever method or reagent or whatever means you find to send the message to cast the spell, whatever the case is,
Mm-hmm.
um, will have some kind of effect on the opposite side that is consistent, but you don't know what it is until you do it. And in that way, that's how you materially affect the other side beyond just sharing information. So whether it's intentional or not, based on whether you know what the effect is, um, you do alter the other timeline in the universe, whatever the case.
Okay.
I like that. Yeah. So in that case, at the very least, you're learning and it's somewhat consistent.
Okay.
Because like
Good.
I think one of the principles of magic is like it should be repeatable instead of just random happen chance.
That-
And this definitely feels like a thing that should be magic
Right.
of some
Yeah.
kind.
Also sounds a bit sciencey too, right? Repeatable.
Yeah. Well, that too. Yeah.
Okay, I get you. So we got a pretty good handle
I
on
mean,
text-based, nothing is permanent, more or less, high fantasy, of course, right? The conspiracy angle is interesting. Like, I don't know, like, you were describing the Bravely Default thing. I honestly haven't played that game at all, but I think I can see the angle in it, but I just don't have that background in it that you do for kind of the conspiracy stuff.
yeah, so the gist of it is you are, as the protagonist, someone who endeavors to do good, but unknowingly are being guided by something that is definitely twisting your efforts into their own gain.
Okay.
And I think the angle that I'm going for here with conspiracy is you as the character have just kind of sussed out that something's going on, but they don't know that you know.
I get you. So you're trying to very subtly impact prevent whatever this thing is without said thing becoming aware that you know.
Kind of like you're starting to become aware, heightened awareness for whatever reason, that something is influencing you in ways, and you get a vibe from it that some shit's happening. And then suddenly this event happens where you're receiving messages from the great beyond, and you're like, oh, well, I guess that confirms that. And then at that point, it's just a matter of finding the right clues and orchestrating the right efforts across the planes to figure things out for both sides, really.
Okay. Yeah. Put that into text. It's kind of ironic. We're writing a text-based game, and I'm having trouble putting stuff into text.
Well, I'm not staring at it. Don't worry.
That's true. Yeah.
You haven't sent the message yet. It's okay.
Okay. I mean, more or less, all of that has covered just about everything that we normally cover in this, except for perhaps audio style, which
Yeah,
at
I
this
mean,
point is kind of I think it's a non-issue, but you're the general music person, so
so like, take a step back and then kind of think of, yeah, it's text based. The idea is that we're using text based here in a way that could be a completely text driven adventure game,
mhm.
or it could be text based in the this is how we make progression because we're writing these letters back and forth. How do you want the rest of the game to be? Do you want it to be like whatever the thing was from Encarta where you're going from room to room and you're like noticing things and you're answering
Oh
questions?
wow.
Or do you want it to be like completely, literally run it from a command prompt or a bash shell and just like doing everything with keyboard and nothing else is happening? You can use PC speaker, I guess, if you want.
I
Um,
admittedly I do
like,
have a soft spot for that stuff. Like
I mean, I do too.
I've played my fair
Um,
share of hacking games where it's all about entering terminal commands and like connecting routes and clearing
yeah.
logs and shit like that. Like that stuff sounds just absolutely utterly mind-destroyingly boring to probably most people, but I love that stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because you get a chance to be like, oh my god, I know how to do this shit and I'm
Yeah,
good at
right?
it.
It's like fucking oh
Yeah.
man, art
No,
imitates
I
life right
feel you.
here. Not really, but
Yeah. I was helping Vlad with a game like that that required like actual Linux commands.
uh
It was fun. I don't remember which game that was. It was some years ago. It was like 2 years ago. But anyway, um, text based only is fun. It is obviously limiting in
right.
the aesthetic that it can provide.
Yeah.
based on literal things like your terminal width, um,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So I think it would be interesting to incorporate ASCII art with a limited color palette, in addition to literally just text. Um, to have some sort of interface where you can push function keys to remember certain terms, to keep an inventory, to keep time, that kind of thing. Um, but specifically for sound, I guess it kind of depends on what your hardware supports.
Gravis Pro, Sound Blaster
Did you
16.
map your IRQs right?
IRQs and your DMAs and your
Yep.
man,
I mean, honestly,
classic.
like it could be fun to do some FM synthesis stuff. Like, why not? That'd be neat. I guess I've never done it. um, sure, why not?
FM synth sounds good to me.
Oh, this entire game should be able to be played on a 386, I guess.
Well, why not? Really should. Like, really, the
Yeah.
only
So I mean,
limit,
like, think of whatever hardware there is, I guess.
the only limitation really that we don't need to deal with from the 386 era is probably storage, right? If you want to have a lot of content in here, or whatever it happens to be, like let's do, instead of the big claims back then, 5 megs of graphics. No, 5 megs of text.
Hell yeah! Oh god,
That is a lot of
that's
text.
a lot of
An
text.
extreme amount of text.
That's like, hi, I've just written my dissertation. Enjoy.
Yeah. Welcome
Text.
to
All right.
War and Peace in the WordPerfect era. Have fun.
Nice. Word star baby.
WordStar. Oh yeah. Wasn't there a related thing, like whoever made WordStar
Yes.
finally re-released it as just free, the latest version?
Yeah. So the latest version of WordStar was open sourced. Yep.
That's what it was. Yeah.
I'm pretty
okay.
sure it was either open source or released for free. Yeah. Yep.
Funny
I
as
definitely
hell.
recall using that in elementary school and saving on 8-inch floppies. Actually.
Oh, better.
Yeah. That was a time. Yeah. Public schools, baby.
All right, and then that brings us, of course, to the title. Since we're doing text-based stuff, I just started with typing of the whatever, because typing of the dead is
Oh,
fun.
man.
And
I'm glad it wasn't a link between worlds, because that also writes itself.
yeah, more or less.
So the other Beyond the Veils, the mirror puns, there are curtains, there are, oh gosh, what else?
Yeah. Synonyms for astral planes and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking of the
From
MTG
that.
card planar torment. In general.
Typing into the ether. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out until we
Honestly, like that
like
could
jive
be
with it.
worse. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's not yelling into the void, right? You're typing into the ether. I guess that works. I kind of like that a little bit more now.
Why not? Yeah, honestly. Definitely could be worse.
Right? Do you like ether as AE or just E as the start there?
AE.
The ether.
Yeah.
Encyclopedia.
Yeah.
All right, very good.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, that came together in a pretty good way. I like that a lot. In fact.
Yeah. Yep. It was a bit of a longer round this time, but
yeah,
we also had a lot to say.
We had to get established, especially for the design. We had to kind of like, oh yeah, well, are we deciding to do this surprisingly good second roll, or are we gonna roll the dice again? Which I'm glad we didn't. And then we're like, oh, okay, well, what the does half of this stuff mean? And
yep,
whatever. That's how it goes.
I'm pleased with what we came up with.
Right? It's
So,
good. It's good.
For that third roll, though,
Yeah. Oh, right. Of course, because we forgot to do this last time, I think, right?
we made the right choice.
Ah, good.
We had two genres here for the third roll. It was Business Sim and Clicker.
Ugh.
The rule is don't stop moving. The setting is zombie, and the theme is lost love.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we made the very correct choice.
Definitely the most correct choice is to not go for number 3.
Yep.
Good job.
So finally, we did it. We did number 2.
We did. Like, that is
That
the
was weird.
rarest. Gross. That is the rarest one. The rarest role for us to have selected here. But you know what? Between this and probably the 2 or 3 other roll 2s we've done, these have probably turned out pretty strong in general. So
Yep.
maybe we should do that more often. Well, if we get good roll 2s, though, because some of the roll 2s have been real bad, which is
Oh,
why
yeah.
we always
Yeah,
go to
they're-
roll
it-
3.
It's usually a shit sandwich.
Yeah. Ah, well, what are you gonna do? That's the nature of RNG, I suppose. It taketh away, it taketh away, and it taketh away.
I was gonna say it just doesn't stop.
Yeah,
taking a thing
it does
away,
not
so,
stop
yeah.
take a thing away. Oh, there's a good round title. All right, very good. Solving
that
so
one.
many problems. Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of Insert Credits round 124 here. Anything else we need to impart? Otherwise, we can wrap it up a little bit later than usual. That's fine, too.
I think I'm good to go.
Excellent. Well, once again, thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm MrBond.
And I'm Tormod.
We'll leave you with our typical closing track, a remix from Final Fantasy Mystic Quest entitled Forest Through the Trees by Shay's Violin. Good night, everybody.
Ciao.